Welcome along, Year 12. Welcome along to Term 3, Lesson 4. And today we're going to be reviewing Our Country's Good, but we're going to be looking today at set design. Hopefully some of the ideas that you had from your costume design lesson will incorporate within this lesson, but we will go through those anyway. So, our objectives for today's lesson are as follows. I want you to identify different references for a set design question, and then I'm going to look for you to analyse how your set is appropriate for a given extract by giving appropriate references for props and set that would be included, but then also just talking about why they are appropriate. So, for today's session, you are going to need the following. You are going to need a pen and a piece of paper. You're going to need a copy of Our Country's Good, and you are also going to need the circle map that I sent through to you with this lesson's resources. So can you make sure that you've got those things in front of you? Pause the video now. Wonderful. Okay, let's kick things off. So, as with our previous lesson, in the space provided, write down all of the different things you would be expected to reference or talk about in a set design question. So I'm going to ask you, again, to not just consider, props, set, the types of things that would come under that area, but also the necessities and the requirements of the actual question. What should I be including within my answer, not just within talking about set design? So I'm going to ask you to pause the video now, spend no longer than 3 minutes doing this, and then come back when you've completed it. Wonderful. Okay, so what I have done is I have placed the answers to my first task in the box on the right hand side of the screen, and we're going to go through these. So naturally, you can talk about, with a set design, the texture of the prop or the set, the colour, the scale of the set, all and props, additional dressings, furnishings, all of those things that you might think, that if you're talking about wood, you might talk about the type of wood that it is and why you've decided to choose that wood. And if you've got a Union flag at the back of your stage, you would talk about the condition of that set. So naturally, all of the things that you might make reference to in terms of set are completely appropriate. But what we need to make sure that we're doing is that we start off with this. So you need to make a minimum of 3 kind of references within an exam answer to set and or props for a specific scene or extract. Okay? You can then talk to me about what they look like. So you need to describe what your set or your props are going to look like within your scene. So you identify them and then you describe them in good detail. You then need to give me an analysis, so an explanation as to how your set design or key items are appropriate for the extract that you have been given. You can talk to me about the style of the production and how your ideas have thought about that style. So we know that our style is epic. What kind of style of theatre would style of set design, should I say, would epic theatre need? And talk to me about that. Composite or discrete setting. So if a composite set is something that stays the same throughout the play but the scene changes, and a discrete set is a location that changes with the scene. So a composite set, as I said, is a set that really stays the same throughout the play no matter what, but the scene changes around it. And then a discrete set is a set that changes as the scenes change. You need to be making links to social, cultural and historical context, and really consider how your set design has incorporated this, how you have considered this with your ideas. Clear and analytical links back to the scene. You could talk about where the actors might interact with the set. So quotes are completely appropriate. Positioning of any set on the stage. So give me the appropriate positioning using the appropriate terminology. And then finally, it is not on here, but it is really important, stage type. Okay, stage type is really, really important. Okay, it's a really easy thing for us to talk about because I think we know quite a lot about it. So the stage type that you have selected, why you have chosen that stage type, and how it considers the set design, the style of the production, and the given circumstances of the scene. And then obviously the entrances and exits could also be referenced in that. So I'm going to ask you to pause the video again, pause the video, and then you are welcome to come back and review our next question when you've got those additional things written down. Wonderful. Okay, so first instructions for our next task. I'm going to need you to read Act 1, Scene 1. It is only a page long, if that. And as you read it, in a form of your choice, in notes, I don't mind how you structure it, note down any initial ideas for set and props that you have in the scene, any props or set that are stated within the dialogue of the scene, the mood or atmosphere in the scene, because we need to be thinking about how our set considers that mood and atmosphere, considers the circumstances of the scene, and then a stage type that you might want to use for that scene and just initial ideas as to why you might want to use that. So again, I want you to read through it. I want you to spend no longer than about 5 minutes on this task, okay, because it is just initial ideas. It will take you about 30 seconds to read the scene and then about 4.5 minutes just to get some of those initial ideas written down. So pause the video now and come back when you've completed this task. And then finally, onto our big task today. So you will notice on the screen in front of you that my circle map is split into 4 sections, okay? 2 of the sections on the left-hand side of the stage are left blank, and I filled that space with my instruction boxes. But on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see an example. So, in my bottom right-hand corner, and I'd like you to do the same, please. In the bottom right-hand corner, I'd like you to give me a stage type that you are going to use, okay? So in the circle, in the first circle, identify that stage type. In the second circle, talk to me about the features of that stage type and describe those to me. And then in the box, in the square, talk to me about how that creates an appropriate environment, how that stage is appropriate for the environment of that scene and the extract as a whole. And then what you will do is for the top right hand corner, and actually in your case for the rest of the map, I want you in the first circle identify any props or set. In the second circle, describe that prop and set in really good detail and think about some of those things that you wrote down when I asked you to recall references for set design. And then finally, analyse how your descriptions create an appropriate environment for this moment within the play. So let's start off with the stage type and let me go through my example with you. So, thrust. The features of a thrust stage are, so the descriptions in my second circle, audience surrounding the stage on 3 sides, the audience are within a close proximity to the stage, and then the thrust lends itself to a minimalist set design. Okay, they are 3 features that I have described, and I think they're completely appropriate. And then in the square, you will notice that I have justified my responses. So, the audience surround the drama, creating a sense of entrapment, appropriate for being trapped on the ship and being trapped in prison by the crimes they have committed. Okay, really nice, simple. The audience surround the drama on 3 sides, and it creates entrapment. It's appropriate for this scene because they're on the way to Botany Bay and they are being entrapped in prison, but you could also talk about the entrapment for their life of crime, and they couldn't escape their life of crime, and then no, they definitely can't escape it because they're all sentenced to either life sentences in this prison camp in Botany Bay, in a convict camp, or death. So, our second point, the audience are within close proximity to the stage. With the audience being so close to the stage, direct address and audience interaction is easy to achieve. This is effective when characters are delivering their opening lines to the audience and for the epic style of the play. So, epic theatre might ask you to interact with the audience to break that fourth wall. It's really easy to do that, so I might talk even more in detail about, I would ask one of my characters to address the audience with their monologue. So I think, if I can recall correctly, that I've got Wisehammer, and then Wisehammer is there, and it could be that I am giving my overview of Wisehammer, giving his address to the audience, and so on and so forth. So I've got that in nice, good detail. Then finally, thrust stage lends itself to a minimalist set design. So the lack of set is symbolic of the character's lack of possessions and poverty, yes. Also appropriate for not blocking any sightlines, and the style of epic theatre, we wanted to focus on the message and not on the naturalistic elements of the scene. Then what I've got my gas lantern. So if we move our focus to the top right of the screen, it's positioned downstage left with the actors upstage centre. The glass around the light is cracked. The gas lantern is bronze, the condition is battered and tatty, and the handle is broken, so the gas light is placed on the floor and not hanging. So if we go back to where it's positioned, with the actors so far away from the lamp, they would not be lit well, demonstrating the darkness that has led to this point. The light will fade as the scene progresses, symbolising their fading hopes as they head for the colony. The glass is cracked around the light, so demonstrating the rough conditions of the boat. Okay, so remember, we're giving a specific circumstance to the scene. So they're on a boat. The boat might have cracked the glass in the light. And then finally, the lack of quality in the items on the boat. The gas lantern is bronze, okay? The condition is battered and tatty. The lantern is likely to have been second-hand and no longer needed by the officers, hence the original bronze colour, which is quite grand, but has now been faded because it has been passed on to them and they don't really care any longer about the condition of it. Now, some of the success criteria that you need for this task is as follows. You cannot review a thrust stage for this scene. I've done that one for you. Pick another stage, please. You must reference 3 items of set or props, and you should make at least one reference to how props/set is influenced by the social, cultural, or historical context. So what I might have added with my gas lantern is that a gas lantern would have been an appropriate form of lighting for 18th century Britain or the 18th century world. So actually I could have added that in my top right hand box in that square, but I didn't. But it is a social context link. You could think about the Union flag as always an easy one to do, but I'm sure you'll have your own ideas there. And then finally, please upload your work to the relevant assignment on Microsoft Teams. All work should be uploaded before or by the deadline stated. The deadline is clearly shown in the email that was sent to you with these resources, and you need to submit a copy of your circle map from today's lesson with all 4 sections completed, and then 2 costume designs from lesson 3. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you very much. Goodbye.